Hello and welcome to my podcast. I begin every podcast with a bowl so that we can connect, find our center, and receive the insight from the podcast. Welcome to my next podcast. In this podcast, I wanted to talk about consciousness, decision making, our lives, the paths we choose to take, how we create our own destiny through our choices, and the interesting things that come up in my mind when I think about that. So I was walking the other day with Tommy on the way back from kindy, and we got to an intersection and he stopped and he said, "Which way do we go?" And there's a natural way that we would normally go, and then there's a choice of which way do we want to go. And he said he was watching the Stephen Hawkins Genius show, and it says that the decision that we make in the direction that we go with a person or a direction or what we eat or where we're going to go actually is a decision on our consciousness, because we consciously choose that decision. So as we consciously choose that decision, we leave the other decision behind us. So it's gone, so we have no idea of what that fate would be. And so now we're walking in a direction which is usually, sometimes can be a simple direction, or it can be a direction that's been created because of things that have happened in the past. So we frame that decision. So essentially every decision that we make frames our future and our reality. So I then referred it to what's happening in the world right now. And I looked at it from the perspective of, so there's Cirque du Soleil has gone bankrupt, and there's lots of big brands going bust, and there's lots of big stores closing down, and there's airlines changing ownership, and the entire landscape of what we understood before, or what we fought for before, or what we wore is changing. It's almost like the dominant parties or the influencers, even the ones that we weren't aware of, we're dictating our decision-making process, because the marketing system had connected so deeply with our senses that it was easier for us to make a decision because we were being sold things all the time. But now that coronavirus has hit and companies are now scrounging for money and the government's actually giving us money, it's bringing us back into this level playing field of what's really important to us. And when they announced essential services, it was like we all had to question, what is our essential services to ourselves? What do we need? Which then sent us into panic buying. But what's really interesting is that when all of this stimulation of shopping and entertainment and all of the buzz things disappeared, we started to connect more with ourselves, because it was like we were so absorbed in everything outside of ourselves that we had to have a practice and be disciplined in that practice to actually connect with ourselves, because it was so easy to become distracted by our desires or by the shiny things that were being sold to us. So it's bringing us back to basics and to our own creativity of how we want to live the world, how we want to be in the world, what we want to create for ourselves, and what actually makes us happy. And so as we're moving into this landscape, there's new things going to come to the surface, new ideas, new designs, new way of traveling, new way of running courses, new way of learning. So we're actually getting a massive change of our consciousness. All of us. It's like a reset, which is really fascinating because some are fighting it and some are embracing it. But every single one of us is going through this right now, and we're all looking at it from a different perspective. We could be in the washing machine and getting thrown around in it, or we could be the observer. It's very fascinating to watch. And for me, the only place that I can watch from is from what's happening to me and my life and my family. But more importantly, how my entire landscape of my life, myself, my perception of self, my business has changed. What's important to me and what's not important to me, and how I'm seeing myself, because the space has been created for me to actually feel and see myself, which is extraordinary. So my wondering is, under your silence, what's been happening to you? How has your life changed and is continuing to change? And how are you stepping forward? What is your awareness around this? And who is influencing you right now? And why are they influencing you? What do you feel is important about their message? And where is it coming from? Are you scared? Is it to do with safety? Is it to do with having more happiness? Is it to fulfill your boredom? Is it to stimulate you more? Really interesting questions to ask yourself. So that's where I'm at today. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast and it's given you something to think about. Until next time, bye for now.